Now there's a lot to be said about getting the right gun length. Obviously something like that is probably a little bit too small and very ineffective because you can't pull the rubbers back far enough to make it effective. It is a great debt collector though. So at Wettie again we have guns of all sizes, and most of the guns we sell here we put together ourselves. Now this is a kid's gun, and the reason it's a kid's gun is we put these tiny little 10mm rubbers on it. See how easy it is to load? So if you've got a child you want to have a go at spearfishing and you don't want to continually load their gun for them, these little wee kids rubbers make it nice and simple and easy. So there's a couple of rubbers on it. The gun's not quite as powerful as a normal gun, but one thing I learnt with my children when I first started them, if I continually loaded their gun for them, they never took time with their shot. They'd just fire willy-nilly, very rarely hit anything because they knew Dad was going to load it. But once they had to reload it themselves, all of a sudden things changed. Took their time, took the right shot and started getting fish. Now we constantly get asked, what's the right size gun for my area? And generally, if you're in the South Island, you want something smaller. So you want something around about a 90cm gun with say a 16mm rubber on it. It's not all about power and whatnot, it's about being able to move it round, being able to see the end of it when it's extended. If you're in very dirty water, you don't want a big giant gun that you can't see the end of. So you want something between 80cm and about 100cm for the South Island and also for the bottom of the North Island. It's a different story if you're going to be chasing kingfish as well. You want something slightly bigger, say around the 110 to 120cm, which is what I've got here. So 120 I find is the ideal size, which is what I've used for the last 30 odd years as a spearfisherman, is a 120 gun. But 110 is our biggest seller because for newer divers it makes it easier for them to load, easier to manoeuvre. The biggest kingfish I've ever shot was around the 40 odd kilo mark, and I shot it with a 110 gun. So again, it's not all about big and powerful, it's about having something you can actually use and hit a fish where you want to hit it. Now the other question we get asked is, what's the difference between carbon and an aluminium tube? Again, here at Wettie we make our own carbon guns. Now I believe we've got the best carbon gun on the market. Our tube is the strongest. The rail is integrated into the tube. The tubes are New Zealand made and they're extremely strong. And they're also very well priced. They're under $400 for the best carbon gun on the market. But why we use carbon guns is they're very light and very easy to hold on to. And the reason you need a light gun, especially is when it comes to hunting snapper. When I shoot snapper, I sneak over a rock and I've got the gun held right back here like this as I sneak over. So the first thing a snapper sees is not the end of my gun, but could be my head. And if there's a snapper there, you can slide the gun forward and shoot. You don't need the second hand. I'm only doing it because it's heavy here out of the water. But underwater, it's very light and it floats really well. So carbon gun, if you can afford it, go to a carbon gun. You'll never regret it. A commonly asked question is, do I need a reel gun? I love reel guns. It's generally all I use. And why I use a reel gun is, again, you can be detached from your float line. So your float line can be attached to a Wettie drop weight. So instead of your float line being clipped to the end of your gun, it's clipped onto this weight. I hold the weight in my left hand, so if I'm sneaking along and I come across a fish, I can drop my float line, get it away from my body, and it won't float away. It means I'm free to hunt the fish with my gun and there's nothing going to stop me. I'm not going to get tangled up on a rock or anything behind. It also means if I shoot something quite big, I can let it run. The reel works just like a reel on a fishing rod. You shoot the fish and it runs. I don't suggest new divers try this technique, especially when it comes to shooting things like kingfish. But for anything up to like a big snapper, it's absolutely perfect. It means if you hit a big snapper and you can't get back to the surface, the reel will run, the fish can run, you can get to the surface and get a breath and then land it from the surface. So reel gun on a carbon fibre gun is the best combination for New Zealand, especially the upper North Island. It's the best.